All right, check one, check two. This is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour with your host, me, Rob Cantrell. Oh man, I got an exciting episode, a great episode. We're going to talk with a very talented, good friend of mine. He actually did the logo, this brand new dope ass grasshopper logo. But he's also a comedian, illustrator, artist. He was an author of this crazy book that was super popular, funny as hilarious, Diehard Christmas. He was on American Got Talent, and he's an author, he's a writer. He just came out with his own book, words and all, no pictures on this one, and it's called This Might Hurt. Please give it up for Mr. Doogie Horner.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be here on the Cannabis Coffee Hour podcast.
Oh yeah, Doogie, I'm so excited to have you. You know, I like to talk morning rituals. Do you drink coffee? Some people don't. Doesn't matter. I'm drinking some coffee right now.
I drink coffee. My wife drinks coffee. This morning she woke up kind of late, and she almost like she couldn't get out the door because she didn't have time to drink her coffee before she had to get dressed and find her keys and everything, and she was struggling because she hadn't had her coffee yet.
I know, man. It is war out there when you wake up with the coffee. Like I do a French press cold brew. Ooh. But I do it the night before. Always do it the night before, and then I have a jug of it ready to go right when I walk up. Yeah, ready to roll. We got an ice maker in the joint. So
wow.
In the refrigerator.
You were wealthy.
Yeah. Not we're in wealthy, but we have an ice maker. Is that wealth?
Here's my prediction. You know how
ice trays or ice makers?
For a long time we were fine with normal ice cubes, and then at cocktail bars they came out with those giant ice cubes, and then they came out with the giant round ice cubes. Here's my prediction for the next ice cube fad. Diamond shaped.
Ooh la la.
And I don't think it'd be that hard because it's a variation on a square. Well, I guess square ones would be diamond shaped if you just turn them sideways. But I mean like shaped like a
yeah, but diamond's a little bit more complex than a square, but I get you. But I think about ice all day long.
Really?
Oh yeah, crushed ice. If I was balling out of control, I would have a crushed ice maker on its own, like one of the ones you have at the restaurant. And then you need a plastic cup in order to this is a plastic tumbler. We'll get these made for the Cannabis Coffee Hour, but this is a great plastic tumbler. So I'm not doing, iced coffee does have a lot of trash and plastic. In my young 20s in Williamsburg, just crushing those fucking, plastic things, man. You power through 3 of those.
Yeah.
Killed, a family of squirrels in about 3 hours. So yeah, crushed ice. I love slushies. I just love ice, but my wife doesn't even like ice in her drink. Where you
really?
Are? Yeah, where do you are at? She likes room temperature water. Yeah, I know.
Is she from?
She's Russian. She's got
England?
No. She's got. I think it's more about temperature. But she also lives off of seltzer water. Like the whole family's on Soda Stream.
Oh,
so all we do is banging out bubbles all day long.
When I was a kid, we had a puppy dog, and I would always put ice cubes in his water, and I thought I was doing him a favor. And then years later, I read that dogs hate cold water.
Yeah.
So actually, I was torturing him, and I feel really bad. I got to live with that guilt.
Yeah, you gotta live with that and move on. But you didn't know, and dogs always look hot because they don't have any pores on their skin, so they don't
sweat.
They don't sweat, so it all comes out that
panting.
Yeah, panting. So we got the sweat glands, we got the funk underneath the arm. Are you doing the organic deodorant, or are you just going straight old school Glide deodorant or Team Cider?
I use organic toothpaste on my armpits. Actually, no, I use real deodorant. I tried organic like the Tom's, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't really. If you have, especially during these super summer months, if you got some serious funk, like it's you're still funking, you're still smelling.
I used to work with a guy back when I was a cook, and he only used organic toothpaste, all natural organic toothpaste, all natural organic deodorant. And he told me, he's like, Doogie, you're using regular toothpaste. It's filled with chemicals. It's so bad for you. It's got all these dangerous chemicals in it. But then he would do LSD.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you think is in LSD? Dangerous chemicals. That's all it is dangerous chemicals. And he would drink too. I was like, forget the LSD, just drinking is way worse for you. You could eat non-organic toothpaste and it would still be better for you than alcohol. Not, I mean, I drink alcohol too, but
Drink
I also use
LSD.
regular toothpaste, I mean.
Yeah. Did you? I went through a charcoal toothpaste phase. I go through phases, but now I'm on. I got some bomb ass toothpaste about your enamel. It's all about keeping your enamel. I got my pro enamel and then a super soft brush.
I just got a charcoal toothbrush.
Oh, those are great. I went through a charcoal toothbrush phase. They'll really get it off.
My teeth are all banged up because when I was a kid, my sister had cancer and I gave her a bone marrow transplant when I was like 2 or something. So they knocked me out to take my bone marrow, and when they knocked me out, they used something called tetracycline. And this was back in the 80s. And they didn't realize that when you give kids tetracycline when they grow up, then as an adult, their adult teeth will be stained. And you can't do anything about it. So I got these like stains. I got stained teeth, and there's the only thing I could
notice it. I don't notice it.
You know who notices it? Kids.
Oh yeah, well, my teeth look yellow, and because all I do is eat peanut butter and smoke weed and drink coffee.
I was hanging out with these kids recently at the park, and they were like, "You should brush your teeth." and I said, "I do brush my teeth." And then I told them, I was like, "Oh, it's a thing." And then
Look at you.
I saw the kids then a couple days later at the park, and the girl said the same thing to me. She goes, "Have you been brushing your teeth?" And so I was a little mad that time. So I got a little offended. I said, "Yeah, have you been brushing your teeth?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Really? Because it looks like they're falling out of your head." Because she was a kid. She's losing her teeth. She goes, "They're supposed to do that." And I was like, "I don't know. You should talk to your dentist because it looks like
Oh,
they
rough,
might not
man.
come back." I think
The playground is so rough, dude. Playground's so rough, Doogie. Because you're from Philly, right?
Filet. Yes.
Philly. And
We will cut you.
they will cut you. And you do have, like, my brother has a funky name. You must have took a lot of shit growing up with Doogie Horner. Did you take a lot? Did you take people making fun of your name, or what? Did they were making fun of your teeth, or were they never making fun of you?
Nobody ever made fun of my teeth, and they didn't make fun of my name. What I get
I
made fun
never
of.
noticed your teeth until you brought it up. And you have a beard, and I don't really look at dudes' mouths that closely.
There you go. As you're straight, you're like, I don't even
No,
look
I'm
at
not.
men's faces.
I'm looking at your beautiful cheekbones, is what I'm looking at. No.
um, I got made fun of for 2 different things. One, I was the only kid, so I get up to junior high. That's when the taunting starts.
Yeah,
You
junior
know,
high comes pretty hard.
I had sideburns. I was the only kid who had big sideburns. I like went through puberty early, so I had these huge fucking sideburns, and so people started to call me Elvis.
Cool.
And I remember I was like, "Yeah, great, Elvis is great." They're like, "No, it's an insult." I was like, "Oh shit." Um, and I remember the one day one of the bullies pulled me aside and he goes, "Look, I like you. You're a nice guy. All you got to do is shave your sideburns off, and they'll stop making fun of you." And my respect for the bullies actually went down
Yeah.
because I thought, you guys have no integrity. I shave them off and then you stop. I was like, you're so shallow. You should hate me.
Yeah.
And it
No,
just shouldn't matter what I do. Even if I shave the sideburns off, you're like, no, 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 no. It's you we don't like. Doesn't matter. We'll just come up with a new taunt. You're not Elvis anymore. Now you're Tom Jones, somebody without sideburns.
Elvis, man, that look. You had mutton chops as a kid, man. You looked like
Yeah,
you were in a
huge.
stoner rock band, man.
It was not a popular. I don't know why I did it.
Yeah, it- that's how you rock it when you're young.
And then the other thing I got made fun of for, but it was weird. This was a nickname I only got on the bus. At school, the bullies would call me Elvis, but on the bus, I was wearing skids. Do you remember skids? They were
Hmm.
these huge pants. They were like MC Hammer pants, but they came in all these crazy patterns, and they were popular for a while. And then like 5 years later, I discovered them and started wearing them when nobody else was wearing them anymore. And I thought they were great. And then one day I got on the bus and somebody yelled at me. They're like, "Yo, Chuckles the clown from In Living Color." These are all references nobody will get
Yes.
unless they're
No,
very
no,
old.
no. Homie the Clown.
Oh, that's right. It was Homie. Well,
It
they
was
called me
Homie the
Chuckles the
Clown. I
clown.
know all those sketches. I was that kid yelling at you. No, just kidding.
And so then they called me Chuckles, and then they called me Chuck. And so
Oh,
the people on
wow.
my bus called me Chuck. The bullies called me Elvis. My friends called me Doogie. My mom was so upset. She was like, "Doesn't anybody? What is?" As I have many names.
You got many names. Yeah, man.
Some call me the Space Cowboy. Some
Some
call me the Gangster Love. Some people call me Maurice.
I was called Cookie Head in high school.
Cookie Head?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I love the movie Hollywood Shuffle, and there's a scene there about this breakdancer, and the sketch is called Death of a Breakdancer. And the breakdancer's name was Cookie Head. And so I would just recite all of the movie. I loved that film. I loved 48 Hour. I was kind of into film comedy, I guess.
Huh.
I liked Spike Lee, like it kind of that independent wave mixed with some SNL, mixed with early hip hop is kind of like I would say a lot of the genesis of my comedy and music and all the shit I do.
You
But
must have liked
have you ever
Putney
seen
Slope.
Hollywood Shuffle?
No, I've never even heard of it. What is it?
What?
Hmm?
Hollywood Shuffle was by Robert Townsend, who went on to direct The Five Heartbeats. He was also in the film Soldier Story, but it was a black independent film that was made with Keenan Ivory Wayans, like most of the guys from some of the guys from Living Color, and a lot of actors in the late 80s, I would say. And
Huh.
yeah, it was like a blockbuster kind of cult classic.
Hollywood Shuffle.
Hollywood Shuffle. I don't know if it still holds up. It still has a lot of sketches. Like I would say it's like pre Chris Rock show. Like it's really early. Like yeah, it was really hip like comedy
Hmm. All right.
at the time. But it really hip hop based, a little bit urban, but Robert Townsend has like kind of a theater background and a stand-up background, so it's a little bit higher end in terms
Hmm.
of its humor and sketches and how it's filmed and shit. It's a great flick.
Well, I'll check it out. I'll add it to my list. The next thing I got to watch is Murder by the Book, the very first Columbo, the Columbo pilot.
Oh
I never,
wow.
never saw
That's
that.
what the television show is based on, is Murder by the Book, or
Well, that was just
no,
the
it's
first
just the
episode.
pilot.
That's
Okay.
just the pilot. It was directed by Steven Spielberg, young Spielberg.
Oh, that is cool.
And I'm a big Columbo fan, so but I never saw that epi. So
No,
and then after that, Hollywood Shuffle.
I saw the Columbo with Johnny Cash. That was the one I
Oh
really
yeah.
That's a two-part one. If anybody wants to dig in, I'm not a huge Columbo fan. The pacing's a little slow, but
Yeah.
I love the
I
name.
mean, for
The
modern audiences.
yeah, for modern
top.
audiences, it's but his character acting is like top notch.
Just get high and watch it.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Because he has the notepad, and you know he's just. But was he a real police? He was a real police officer, wasn't he?
In the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a detective. He's not like a vigilante or
I kind of this whole 80s private detective thing, like Magnum PI, but I was thinking about it. I was, what
he's
is
a
a
PI.
private detective? Like it's just a hired dick. It's just like you hired some creep to creep out on somebody, man. Like they're not even official. They're not even cops. They're not even security guards, dude. They're just randos that are just creeping through your shit.
I had a friend that was a PI, and He said it's not very glamorous. He said mostly you just follow people, and he's like he said most of the people that hired him, they just want to know if their spouse was cheating.
Yeah, it's mostly just like creepo.
You
Yeah,
just follow people.
creepo, but divorces, insurance fraud. You don't need a guy like that until you need a guy like that.
Then you need a guy like that.
Then you need a guy like that, and that's why those guys are around. Tell me about the Diehard Christmas book. That was would you say, if you're playing the Doogie Horner hits, things that you're kind of known for creatively was, mainstream would be American Got Talent, and then, but you also was a graphic artist, and then you sold this book. How did this all come about? The Die Hard Christmas, and was it a graphic novel or a coloring book?
Well, I always worked in publishing. I went to art school, and I always wanted to do book design because I like books.
In Philly, isn't there a Philly art design school or something?
Yeah, Tyler School of Art.
Yes, is that where you went?
Part of Temple. It's in North Philly. Yep.
Yep. I got
Very
that.
nice.
Vibe.
Very nice school. Liked it a lot.
Yep.
And then I got into publishing. Well, first I couldn't get into publishing at first. There are only 2 publishers in Philadelphia that do like creative, that do fiction and stuff like that. And so I couldn't get in at first. So my first job out of art school was designing toy packaging for Mattel toys.
Cool.
And then I worked at Running Press, and then I worked at Quirk, which were 2 different publishers in Philly. And I designed a bunch of covers. I did Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I did Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and a bunch of other stuff. And then I was doing stand-up at the same time. I started doing stand-up, and
I asked that. Yeah.
an editor asked me to pitch a book about stand-up. And so I did this book about stand-up, and it had all these different charts in it and different drawings and graphics and things.
Yeah. Are you hearing that? I'm sorry. My phone's connected to my computer. I'm sorry for that, everybody. That was a rando robot call. And go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
You were writing a book about stand-up. You were doing diagrams. Oh, there they go again.
They're back.
They're back. I shut my phone off. I'm so sorry, Doogie. This is not as professional as I would like. But
so unprofessional.
I hate my phone. I never.
Not what I expect from a podcast about marijuana.
I hate my phone, and my thumb is starting to hurt because of scrolling and touching it. I just threw it across the room. I hate my phone.
You got scroll thumb.
I got scroll thumb. It's all jacked up. Like it just like when I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm ready to leave it all behind and just zoom out with you right now.
You should go to the hospital for your scroll thumb, and they'll be like, all the beds are filled with COVID patients, and you're like, well, this is more serious. I'm sorry.
I got a big video to post tomorrow, and I'm gonna be scrolling like a motherfucker, man.
This muscle right here this ligament is.
But it really does. It's where it's the attachment. I know I know my body, and I've been listening to myself more. And I was like, I need to just not use the phone for a week.
I just got a watch. Well, I have tons of watches, but I
watch. Yeah, everybody. I'm always behind. I never got the ear pod things, but everybody loves the watch because you can leave your phone at home and still get calls like, oh, grandma died. You could still get that call.
Oh, I don't mean the iWatch. I mean like watches. Like, hold on.
Cool. You're into watches.
So I got a bunch of watches here. I have a bunch of swatches. This is I don't know if you can see that one.
Oh yeah, classic 80s swatch.
Classic 80s clear bands.
Social club. Let's rock it.
Got this one.
Ooh, caution sign.
Caution. I got this one's kind of interesting. Numbers on the.
Yeah, that's kind of European.
This is the 80s right there. Boom. Look at that bitch.
Oh, I got a shirt just like that color. That's a great purple and
That bitch.
pattern, man.
I got this one. It's a super skinny one. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
Barely there. But anyway, so it's barely there. So I started wearing a watch again. Here's it. Anyways, I have tons of watches. I used to collect swatches. I started wearing a watch again because I stopped wearing a watch. We all stopped wearing watches because we got our phone. You just look at the time on your phone. But a watch is better than a phone because I've never looked at, has this ever happened to you? You look at your watch to see what time it is, and then an hour later, you're still looking at your watch and you can't remember why you looked at it in the first place? That never happens with a watch, and that always happens with my phone. And so that's why I'm wearing a watch again. So there's one less reason for me to pull out my phone and get totally distracted by Instagram or whatever.
I know it drags you right in, but yeah, man, that's hilarious. It drags you right in, and yeah, go back to all the classic things, man. I use a guitar. I'm doing a coloring book. I got this adult coloring book that with all these Sharpies. That's what I did just to get off devices and whatnot. But please like and subscribe to this podcast right now and enjoy Spotify. Please pump it up in iTunes. I get more listens on iTunes. So remember to like and subscribe. But Doogie, these watches, this art, what's your and that's how you got into comedy. I want to get back into that because that was a funny origin story. So you were making serious rent doing art, which is kind of like when you go to art school and then you get like a legit job. Those jobs have like insurance and shit. Like that's a good strong leap for a young man, and to then venture into stand-up comedy at the same time must have been kind of odd.
Well, I always just did stand up for fun, and especially in Philly. And when I started, there was nobody was like professional about, like, all the comedians were weird old dudes that were telling crazy ass jokes. Just, it wasn't like today where it's a more established or accepted like career, and I think people have more of an idea of how to do it, and then like they do it, kind of have it to lead to another thing. You're like, I want to write, I want to act, or I want to be a professional. But at that time in Philly, everybody was doing stand-up was just like, this is it. I tell crazy ass jokes at the VFW. I do beef and beers. There was nobody wanted to do it. So I just did it for fun for most of my life, at the same time that I was also an art director, or making art, or making books, or making charts. For a long time I made these crazy. Well, yeah, so what happened was they asked me to do a book about stand-up, then they didn't buy it, but they felt bad. The editor felt bad. He's like, you put all this work into it, let me hook you up with an agent, he'll try to sell it to someone else. So he hooked me up with this literary agent who at the time was Donnie Brasco's agent. Donnie Brasco?
Yeah, I do.
The mob informant.
Yeah, man, the movie is one of the best. Yeah,
this dude was the agent for Donnie Brasco, Joey Bananas.
Oh yeah,
the mob boss that killed all these people. And so he calls me up and he said, yeah, so I hear you got this book, and I looked over, it's pretty good, and yeah, I think I'm gonna sell it. Or I think he was like, I want to be your agent. And I said, okay, well, let me think about it. And there was this deadly silence on the other end.
Wow.
And he says, what the fuck is there to think about? I said, oh, you're right, I'm sorry.
I'm about to hand you a check, is what he was saying to you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because when agents in the book world, I'm getting my head around it, but you're talking like it's just normal. But it is an idea, and if you have the idea it's the same thing with movies and TV. But if the idea is good and it goes through the right channels, there's a check at the end of it, especially if it's, if they buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then he tried to sell it. Nobody wanted it. But
Yeah.
HarperCollins said, they said, we don't like the comedy book, but we like the chart you did. And I did this chart called the Universal Comedy Flow Chart because I noticed, like most comedians, our jokes are all about certain similar subjects. And so I made this big chart about all the subjects. And they said, can you do a book that's just all charts? And so I worked up a sample of what a book like that would be like, and they liked that and they bought it. So that was my first book that I did, which was everything explained through flowcharts. I don't have it on the
Oh,
shelf
that's
right now.
awesome. I love a great flow chart.
So that was my first book, and I did tons of charts for a while there. I did charts for like
How old were you?
Wired and Playboy and Fast Company and all these different
Oh, that's awesome.
McSweeney's. I don't know,
28?
yeah, maybe 20s.
And you got a book deal. You got a legitimate book deal. Like Mom and Dad, I just sold a book that people could buy. It's amazing.
That's not that amazing.
I know. I don't know. I think I know. I get it. There's like it's like music. You could self publish, and then there's other levels of independent publishing houses, and then the big dogs. The big dogs where you could buy a house.
Oh, wow.
You could buy a house by the beach or something.
Well, I've never bought a house by the beach with any of my publishing money, but I have
Dude,
a living.
Let's talk about This Might Hurt a bit. This is all words, because you went, like, you're graphic design artist. I'm sure everybody's listening to this is amazing. I love charts. I think on This Might Hurt, there it is, a beautiful cover. Is this the first full wordy word book? Oh, wow.
That I wrote? Yeah. So you asked about a Diehard Christmas was like a kid's book, but it was not a kid's. It's like a fake kid's book. It's like a kid's book version of Die Hard.
I remember seeing it everywhere at like hipster bookstore. Like it definitely hit.
It was big.
It was big in like Brooklyn, or like if you went to independent bookstore, it was definitely out like on one of the top main things near the register.
Yeah, when it came out, it was #1 on Amazon. I felt bad. It bumped Hillary's book.
Holy shit, Doogie! I had no idea.
What Happens? And I felt like she was talking about the Amazon list, because you look at it, and it was like my book, then Dog Man, then What Happens? And I was like, that's a good question, Hillary. What did happen?
Was this before Donald or after?
I think it was after.
Yeah. What Happens was the title of, okay, this is, I lost the race and I'm writing about this. I don't know. I don't know her books that well.
I think so.
I did vote for her, but this is not a political podcast.
It'd be funny if her next book was a cookbook. Wouldn't that be funny? So yeah, so This Might Hurt a bit. Yeah, so I did a bunch of books. I did 100 Ghosts. I did some very interesting cats. I did a bunch of books that were like drawings, like funny drawings and stuff, but I always wanted to write a novel because I love novels. And I tried lots of times over the years, and I could just never write well. I could just never make it happen. And I don't know what, I just kept trying. And I finally, with that book, like something clicked. I finally figured out how to write. I don't know why, but
you have an editor working through it with you?
Not initially. I mean, I wrote it, and then my agent gave me some notes, and then the editor gave me some notes. But I mean, most of the real work was done just by myself.
Yeah, pushing it
before that.
Yeah. Did you push it through in the pandemic or before the pandemic?
This was before the pandemic. This is when we were in Sunnyside. I forget how many years ago when did this book come out? It was a couple years ago. It was before the pandemic.
Yeah, I remember, because Doogie and I performed a lot with Doug Benson, and he would always book us on his Doug Loves Movies podcast, 12 Guests of Christmas. 12 guests that we both won, I believe.
I don't know if I've ever, there's no way I won the 12 guests.
One year I won.
Did you?
Yeah.
How?
I bet Seth Herzog. I don't know.
Wow.
I am a lucky man. I will say I do get lucky sometimes. Not all the time, because you know my movie trivia is just not there. It's just
weak.
not. It's not how my brain
No
works.
offense. Yeah.
I know.
All the questions were about Hollywood Shuffle. That's how you did it.
I know a few movies. I know Beat Street. I know Hollywood Shuffle. I know Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I know Animal House. I know all Caddyshack. I can go on. And then a lot of documentaries about graffiti and
you know, the important films.
all the important, some surf movies. I knew a filmmaker from Mavericks. Shout out my man, what is it? Big Toe In Surfing. He gave me a bunch of his videotapes. They were like surf movies. They were amazing.
Huh.
You ever watch surfing, like big wave surfing?
Only one time we had a party and we projected Endless Summer on the wall. The movie, we projected it real big. It was like a summer. We did like a summer party.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I also have this ice cream in my freezer called Endless Summer, and I bought it 3 years ago, and it's raspberry sorbet with basil and lime, and it sounds delicious. But I took a bite, and the basil tastes like lawn clippings. It tastes like grass, and so it's disgusting. And so it's been in our freezer for 3 years, and the joke is that it really is endless summer because it will never get eaten because it's gross.
Pretty gross. Yeah,
It
man.
truly is. It's the one eternal thing. Because
I'm
nobody
out
wants
there.
it.
You know, I'll put salt on my chocolate and all that, but
Ooh, yeah.
basil into ice cream, that's a bold one. I mean, you're really rolling the dice with that because, and I'm a basil lover. Like I will eat that basil leaf right off the pizza. Like
yeah, put it in pizza. Put it
Yeah.
in spaghetti. Don't
Yeah,
put it in ice cream. All these fancy new ice cream places.
Ooh,
I go there, I can't get anything. I'm like, do you have chocolate? They're like, oh yeah, we have jalapeno chocolate. No, I said chocolate. Do you have vanilla? Yeah, we got rosemary, vanilla. Well, that's not vanilla. Keep the spice rack out of my sundae.
Yeah, minimalist. I'm going for it these days. Lately, I've been doing, I'll do one of those Ben and Jerry's all day long, but I've been going Breyers, vanilla bean ice cream, and Hershey's chocolate syrup.
There you go.
One
Classic.
scoop, then dump it with a ton of chocolate on top. It melts. You get that good goo goo. Yeah, that's that. I've been going more minimalist with a lot of my stuff. Last night, what did I killed it with some Brussels sprouts and just pan fried chicken. And I put the chicken breasts in like a skillet and then into the oven with a dry rub. And I did that for 45 minutes along with the Brussels sprouts that were just, Brussels sprouts, you just got to burn the living shit out of them. That's how you cook those things.
Yeah. I'll give you a good simple recipe. You take a head of cauliflower, chop it up like a loaf of bread.
Feeling it.
Oil it.
Yep.
Put in
avocado oil.
Ton of garlic. Chop up a ton of garlic, and then you just bake it at 325 for about 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Flip it halfway. Put a little lemon juice on there, and then a bunch of Parmesan cheese.
Ooh, bammo!
It's good.
It tastes almost like cheddar fries. The thing about cauliflower, when it gets that brown, when you toast it,
oh yeah,
it's almost French fries.
Yeah.
Can we all agree? French fries is at the top of the food chain. Like you're not gonna beat just a McDonald's French fry, a simple McDonald's. I hate McDonald's, and even the last few times, I just can't even do it at small doses. Sometimes you got to do it, but their French fries is just ridiculous.
They have really good French fries. Nobody says they doesn't.
No,
nobody says they doesn't.
You're not going to turn one down if you had like that red carton. But it is disgusting. I've been going through a potato phase. I have been baking my own potatoes. What was the last thing you did with a potato?
Threw it out the fucking window.
Did it start growing?
Yeah, it instantly.
It started getting some roots.
I don't like potatoes. Sorry.
Potatoes? Man, Doogie, you always do throw a curveball. You always do something that I don't expect. And if you don't like potatoes, you don't like potatoes.
I don't like potatoes.
I dig it, man. I can.
What do I? I'm not a big carb guy. The only carb I really eat is spaghetti, or I'll
I've
eat
been going through
raisin.
penne and then some bow tie pasta lately.
Bow tie pasta is like the fancy. I feel like whenever I eat it, I'm like, it's like wearing a bow tie. I feel like.
You're about to do an interview with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll eat raisin cinnamon bread if I'm making a green apple and brie sandwich. But other than that, I don't really get many carbs.
Raisin cinnamon bread. Yeah. Toasted with butter. That can
Green,
go up a few notches.
green apple.
Oh, green apple. Yeah. I just had a Honey Crisp right before the interview and it tasted so delicious that I forgot to chew and I swallowed a big hunk of it. And then I was like, man, I really got to slow down. Like I
You
was
gotta
rushing
remember
to
to
do the
chew.
podcast. I had to move my car. So I had a bunch of things going on. And then I was like, and it was tasting good, and a good apple, like around 10:30, an apple and peanut butter, like that just hits the spot.
You
And
need to get a tattoo. You know how like some actresses they'll get like breathe tattooed on their wrist or whatever. You gotta get chew tattooed on your wrist.
I
You
have had
remember.
problems. Yeah. Chips have gotten me a few times. I've swallowed some really sharp tortilla chips before. And
Oh,
not a good thing. I caught some salmon. Caught some salmon bones. Salmon rarely has bones, but I had a piece of salmon and then I caught them. You ever eaten fish and you didn't know about fish bones and then you just got wrecked?
I don't eat fish. I have a mild allergy.
Oh wow,
I'm allergic to a lot of stuff.
that's cool.
Fish is one.
Fish, but not coffee.
I'm not allergic to coffee, and I actually brought. I thought you might ask when I'm drinking these days.
Oh,
Weg-
wax.
Wegmans, it's not very good. We just moved to a new neighborhood, and they got different coffees here, and so I'm trying the Wegmans, and then I got some of this. I got some Cafe Du Mondes.
Oh, that's nice. Is that?
So
Oh, nice. I always like that one. Those are both good. Those are both ground, right?
yeah,
Going ground.
I'm
Not.
not I'm not much of a snob. I don't need to like grind my beans, or I don't do the French press. I just do a regular old drip. But I tell you something. What's that?
Coffee mate, like a coffee maker. Just
Coffee mate.
yeah,
Mr.
just rock
Coffee.
and roll. Yeah, nothing wrong with
Um,
that. That hits the spot.
but I just started doing something I never did before. I started measuring. You
Yep.
know how on your coffee they say this is how much coffee for this much water? I'm like, I'm not gonna, I just always winged it. And I finally said, you know what? I'm gonna try to use the amount of coffee they say you're supposed to use. And guess what? You're not gonna believe this. It tastes better that way.
Yep.
And it's ruined my life though, because I'm like, now I have to start following the instructions on everything. My whole life I've never followed the instructions, and here we have proof that I should have been.
Yep. The answer's always right in front of your face, Doogie. I'm a
So
big instruction reader out loud. Like I have to read them. I read them slow and I read them out loud. I put them, everything comes from my mom. So it's a very nervous, thorough lady. And she would just, anything that I have to lay it out because I don't have the attention span and I have to spell it out really simple. But
yeah.
sometimes I wing it. With coffee, I can definitely go with feel.
Oh, okay.
If I had grounds, I could figure out, but I know what you're saying. You should measure it out. I usually go a little bit stronger. So with a coffee mate, I'm not going to go to the way top. I'm going to go to what you think is normal and then 2 more scoops. And that gives it maybe a little extra kick that I might enjoy.
Turns out this whole time I've been making it too strong.
Yeah, sometimes that, and it can throw off your morning.
I read some coffee company went and did a survey of people, and they asked them, how do you like your coffee? Describe good coffee. And everybody said dark, bold, rich. But then when they actually give people coffee, they don't like the dark, bold, rich coffee. They actually like the light or the medium coffee.
Yep.
Nobody actually likes, the average person actually does not like dark coffee. But that's the word they use.
Eating a lot of different stuff. Yeah. And a lot of it, you just want that caffeine. So maybe that just symbolizes a kick in the morning, you know? You're looking for a little bit. I mean, a lot of it with coffee, but I think once you start getting older, you need the kick, you know? And it's a healthy kick because they drink it in old folks' homes. People drink coffee forever.
Yeah, I don't think it's that unhealthy, is it? Who says
I
it's
think if it can fry your nerves if you drink too much. And some people have, you know, everybody's built different. So
Yeah, I got a friend that can drink coffee right before bed. She's got no problem.
yeah, I've been in that zone. It matters how much I'm drinking. The older I get, the more sensitive I get to everything. So I
Yeah.
know my limits, but I do the cannabis coffee hour, and I like herbs, so it kind of balances that whole thing out. And I go out at night, and I don't drink alcohol, so it kind of, for me and my chemistry, it just kind of makes sense. Where are you with herb? Are you a fan of it? You're not a huge heavy smoker. I don't know. All those Doug Benson shows, yeah, sometimes, but maybe not that much.
I've only ever smoked weed, I think, 4 times in my life, 3 or 4 times. I think twice on Doug Loves Movies, uh, and then once with Trey Gallion, and then once with my friend Nick, and once or twice with Nick, and like that's about it. I've only smoked maybe 4 or 5 times in my whole life.
Yeah, it's just not something that's on your radar.
I just never, I started drinking late, and I got a good amount of drinking in my 20s, and I just never explored. I've never done any drugs other than I smoked a couple of times, and then I've been drugged twice.
Good
That's
Lord.
not fun.
What
Uh,
happened there?
the one time I was on the road performing at a club, and somebody drugged me and the headliner, and then the other time I was at a party at Twitter or Facebook or something at their headquarters in Brooklyn, and I don't know, somebody drugged me. Anyways,
Weird. Yeah. Booze is weird, and bartenders. I don't. Yeah. But do you drink wine now? Like at the end of the night, is that a splurge? I guess. Do you have a vice at all? Is coffee your vice?
I have a vice. I drink alcohol. I like alcohol. I don't
Yeah,
drink
that's all
wine.
right.
It makes me
Wine
too
at night.
sleepy.
Yeah, you do have a stiff drink now and then. Do you drink bourbon,
I like to drink. I like whiskey on the rocks,
whiskey
or
on?
I'll do whiskey, and I'll maybe chase it with a beer.
Yeah,
I used to drink a lot of vodka
yeah.
with club soda, or Stoli Orange with club.
Those
My
are
drink
fun.
for many years was Stoli Orange with club, or now Tito's is popular, so I have a Tito's and club. But
You
these
ever have
days,
a Jim Beam
whiskey.
and Dr. Pepper?
No, but I
That's
used
what
to
I
drink.
grew up on, man. I grew up on handles of Jim Beam and
Sounds
Dr.
good.
Pepper on a ton of ice. Yeah, it's actually, it's sugary and bourbony and loosey goosey as you want, and it keeps you up. And it tastes like a candy thing. But yeah, booze. Yeah, my body. I started way too early with booze, and I ran with hard drinkers in college that were doing blow pretty much the whole time, and I never did blow, so I was keeping up with them,
Uh-huh.
drinking, all night with these
With
cats.
that Dr. Pepper, it was all that Dr. Pepper,
So
Rob.
yeah, I just kind of the booze. By the time I even got out of college, I was done with booze. I think by
Hmm.
sophomore year, I started enjoying bong hits and watching movies and yeah, in college, a couch and a VCR on a Saturday with a
Hmm.
few movies and a bong. That was like my favorite thing in the world.
It's not still.
It still is. The life moves really fast, and I don't own a bong at this time. On the
That's gonna
road,
die you
once we
fast.
start doing shows out on the road, I like to keep it out on the road. Like I guess with my cannabis, if I go decadent, it's usually around comedy or something like that, like after the show, instead of boozing hardcore. That's how I know Doug and Trey and all these cats so well. Is yeah, a lot of the San Francisco comics. Shout out to Dan Gabriel, like hardcore tokers.
Yeah, when you're on the road, there's not much to do. So I definitely drink more on the road. I'm like, well, what else am I gonna
Yeah, yeah. Well, with comedy, the booze is always there. You got the bar, and
Yeah.
and that's kind of one of the perks is you can have a nice, good cocktail.
Hmm.
It'll let the 3 hours pass by uh, fairly easy. It's such a good gig with comedy. The thing about comedy, it's just so hard to keep the money coming in, but sometimes it does happen, and I've seen it happen, and it's happening all the time. But the downtime, just the booze and stuff is if that's all you're doing, like you're a graphic designer, you're selling books, you're doing stand up, like even the few years, like you were saying, you were dipping in and out of it ever since American Got Talent, and now you're starting to fall back in love with like going and performing, but we're in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, it's sometimes I'm less in the mood and sometimes I'm more in the mood. It depends on, I don't know if you feel that way.
I'm getting that way. Yeah, there was because it was the only thing that I had going, there was, years and years of just desperate scratching and crawling. So I got leathered up to the point now where I feel confident, yeah, picking and choosing, especially during COVID. Like this dude hit me up for 2 shows in Jersey City on Saturday last minute. And I was like, with Delta 5, I turned it down. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, just like, and I knew the crowds were whatever. And it was a weird restaurant gig, it was like, a cash in hand quick gig, but I do feel honored to be asked to do those. So I don't want to turn those down. And I like doing them now and then. If it wasn't COVID, I would definitely do it. But yeah, I'm at a point now where, yeah, I'm trying to listen to my body and feel like, do I feel like performing? What's the vibe? What am I going to get out of it? Is the crowd going to be cool? I don't have to prove myself in front of some bunk ass crowd if I'm not getting paid.
When I started out, I would do so many crazy shows, especially in Philadelphia.
Yeah, you got to do everything starting out. You really got to get your reps in. That's just the gig. And stage time is brutal in the beginning. I had to pay for stage time a few times, and I barked a few times, bombed for years in open mics. Before I got Last Comic Standing in 3.5 years. And then I was like, I'll give myself to 30. And I started at like 26, 27. And then all of a sudden I was on national television, and it was the biggest hit of the summer, the very first season. So it was like, it was a real, but there was a good year of me just doing open mics and living in a hostel,
I did this show in Philly and it was like a fundraiser. It was a police fundraiser. And I said, all right, I'll do it. Like, I don't care. I'll do whatever. And back then I used to perform in a suit, and I had this gray Brooks Brothers suit. And I'm at this cop fundraiser. Nobody there is wearing a suit. And I
really
asked him,
that's a whole other animal.
yeah, it was South Philly. It was big. There were a lot of people there.
Yeah, Uniontown. Yeah, it's like everybody showed up.
And I said, what's it a fundraiser? What's the fundraiser for specifically? And they said, one of our dogs died. And so they gave an in memoriam for this dead police dog, right? They had like a projector with a picture of the dog, and his owner, his team partner, I don't know what you call him, came out and talked about the dog and how he died in the service and stuff. And then they said, okay, and here's Doogie Horner. And I came out and did jokes, and I performed in the rounds. There was no stage. I stood in the middle, and they just like made a circle. I performed in the rounds right after a in memoriam for a dead police dog, and I did a lot of time. I think it was like a half hour or something, which is a lot after, in that kind of situation.
Yeah, they don't know, and you don't know. Like everybody that knows that should be a 7 to 10 minute set at tops.
It shouldn't be anything. It shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't even be there. It shouldn't. You're right. It shouldn't even be there.
I did an hour inside a bank vault at a Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse while everybody was eating dinner. I did a lot of.
How many laundromats? I got like 2 or 3 laundromats, dude.
I've never done a laundromat. I've
my
always
second
wanted
set, brainwash, dude. I did the laundromat. I was the king of the laundromat open mic. Like I became the big dog. Like that's where I worked out.
to. Mr. Spin.
At San Francisco, it was called the Brainwash. It was actually a lot cooler than you would think, but they had a coffee shop and it had a little performance, and they would have like acoustic night, and people would play guitar or people would do weird spoken poetry or whatever. But they had a comedy night, but it was laundry. There was a whole section of it that was all laundry, and so yeah, people would be doing their laundry while you're doing your my second set. I remember I bombed so bad. My first set, I killed so hard. Like I literally thought I was going to be on Saturday Night Live like the next week. Like I was like,
After they
stopping me. Oh.
You're like, there's definitely a talent agent at this laundromat doing their.
Oh, but this was worse
laundry.
than laundromat. This was it was called it was the open mic, and there was literally folding chairs in a weird place that had like AA meetings, and it was like the bottom of this little open mic ring. And it was called the Luggage Store, and it was on Market Street, and there was prostitutes out front, and you would go up and stuff. And it was like this, it was San Francisco in the late 90s. So yeah, I remember just being like a 25, 26-year-old dude, like, and stand-up, it was before the internet or Twitter. Like you just like, like well, I found stand-up, it was like finding jazz. Like it was like the coolest like underground scene, and all these really smart, cool people like Doogie Horner you meet, and you'd vibe with and do shows with. It was amazing.
I always liked San Francisco as a comedy town. I always loved the Punchline.
That's where I start. That's where I got my first check. I love the Punchline.
It was a great club.
I can't tell you how much pot I've smoked outside of that club. Like all the comics smoked herb there. And after the shows, the Sunday night epic showcase, if you're ever in San Francisco and you just want a general good night of comedy, every Sunday night at the good old Punchline, they'll have 10 of the best local comics sprinkled with a couple headliners that are laying around or in town, and it's just rips. Go check that out. Shout out to the Punchline in San Francisco.
Last time I was there, George Wallace dropped in.
Yeah.
And someone was like, who's that guy? And I was like, it's George Wallace. What do you mean? Who is that guy? Jeez.
He has the best Twitter game out there.
I really like his Twitter. It's surprisingly good.
Oh, it's the best, man. His Twitter game makes me want to not do Twitter. It's so good. Like people talk Rob Delaney all day. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but that's all he's like. George Wallace, I mean, Rob Delaney's funny and cool. I've met him and he's nice. I haven't seen him in years since he blew up from Super Twitter. But George Wallace, dude, that dude, he's a legendary comedian, everybody. If you want to follow my Twitter at Rob Cantrell. Doogie, give it a shout.
Doogie Horner
but definitely check out George Wallace's Twitter. He's killing it.
Yeah, he's really funny.
He's really funny. I'm trying to let go of social media. That dude shouldn't let go of social media.
The whole point of social media should just be to follow George Wallace. There should be one person on Twitter. It's him.
Just
you go on there, you see his tweets.
It's always funny. It's always silly. It's always nonsense.
Yeah, he's got the right attitude.
He's got the right attitude. He just hits it just right. And then you get lost into Trump QAnon world, and then you have a headache and your thumb hurts. But you know, George Wallace won't let you down when it comes to comedy writing. He's up there like with, you know, Carl Reiner or like or Mel Brooks, like in terms of comedy writing. Like George Wallace, I think, is going to go down in the books. I mean, you could say Jerry Seinfeld. I put him up against, you know, Jerry Seinfeld with joke writing. Like he's just so fucking good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went on comedy nerd tangent there. Sorry, Doogie.
You're the first person to compare George Wallace to Mel Brooks. I'll tell you that.
I think Mel Brooks is amazing, and I love him as a director. I want to direct films. I think he has the right attitude and silly. Yeah, the PC world is maybe, you know, passed by on a lot of that stuff, but in terms of the acting, the shots, the pacing, just the heart of it, just being silly and for the sake of being silly, I'm just a huge fan of.
Yeah, me too.
Of you, and that's Doogie Horner. If you want to see silly for the sake of silly, check out all of Doogie Horner's books, especially Diehard Christmas. But if you want to read and get real and also laugh and feel, check out This Might Hurt a Bit, his new book. That is amazing. I'll read it. I'll check it out. I got your cat's book. It's one of my favorite books. I got it laying around here. But I'm a big fan of your art. Thank you for doing the logo. Thank you for doing the podcast, Doogie.
My pleasure, Rob. Thanks for having me.
It was
nice
awesome
to talk to you.
It was great to talk to you. I hope I didn't talk over you too much. I'm still.
No, you didn't. I talked over you, if anything.
No. I try to let people run, but yeah, you know, we're all learning, and this thing is raw dog as it gets, and I appreciate you doing it, Doogie. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Rob.
All right, peace out, everybody. One love, rock and roll. We're out.
Did you ever eat at the Globe in San Francisco?